infected people of any country. By any number of measures, Brazil should be at the top of the list with South Africa. In 1990, Brazil had almost twice as many cases of HIV/AIDS as South Africa, and a World Bank study predicted that Brazil would have off-the-chart infection rates for HIV/AIDS by the turn of the millennium. The World Bank researchers told Brazil to focus on prevention and, in effect, to be prepared to lose all those infected before the epidemic was under control. At the start of the new millennium, as predicted, 1 in 4 people in South Africa were infected with HIV. However, in Brazil, a miracle occurred. The country's infection rate had dropped to 0.6%, 1 in 160. Today, Brazil is touted as a model for developing countries fighting HIV/AIDS. How did this miracle happen? If you look for a charismatic leader who inspired the people, you quickly realize there wasn't one. Instead, Brazilians at all levels, from government bureaucrats to local community leaders, joined forces in the service of a key guiding principle. No person, no matter how poor, insignificant, or illiterate, could be written off as beyond cure. Liberation theology, a version of Catholicism that infuses Brazilian culture, proclaims the importance of empowering the poor and creating liberty for all. Healthcare workers looked for ways to ensure treatment would be available to all citizens, regardless of their ability to pay, and found resources that were hidden from external observers and HIV/AIDS experts. Volunteers from churches and other non-health charities worked alongside the clinical experts and became invaluable in both helping people follow complicated drug regimens and learning ways to prevent infection. At the government level, a clause in an international trade agreement was used to wage a successful legal battle for the right to make generic drugs in cases of national emergency, which reduced the price of HIV/AIDS drugs. To spread the prevention message, the Brazilians decided to use humor rather than fear. Clowns wearing costumes made of condoms handed out condom lollipops to drive home the safe sex message in a fun and memorable way. One playful billboard depicted 3 beautiful women sitting around a condom-shaped table. The thought bubbles above their heads all said, "See." The message was that women will say yes, yes, yes to men who use condoms. These campaigns were in stark contrast to those in most other countries, which stressed, use condoms or you could die. Clearly, Brazilians did not want anyone to die of AIDS. But they reasoned the youth, who were the most susceptible to contracting HIV, often feel invulnerable and rarely are thinking about death, especially when they are contemplating sex. Live Aid is a miracle in close-up, which in our awestruck or inadequate moments we can put down to the actions of a hero, an individual larger than ourselves who is capable of changing the course of history. How, we wonder, could Bob Geldof have done this by himself? What was happening around him and to him that made such action possible? In his own words, doors impenetrable a week earlier swung open effortlessly. Many of our good intentions seem to be smothered before we get off the couch. How were his efforts magnified and amplified? In Brazil, a multitude of interactions tipped a near tragedy into a triumph, at least for now. But who led, who followed, and what were the obstacles and the opportunities for action? How did the effort of so many individuals produce the kind of results described above? Who were the individuals who contributed to this miracle? This book answers those questions. This book is about figuring out how to make the impossible happen. It is about the first light of evening, and about a world where ultimate good can be not only imagined, but also created. It assumes that in any social innovation, something radically new occurs, and assumes that, for this to happen, there must be, first and foremost, a belief that intractable problems can be solved. It assumes there must be an individual or group of individuals poised and ready to act. But these do not have to be perfect people. There must be an alignment of circumstances that make action possible. The trick is to see the relationship among all these elements. And in order to see, we must often change our thinking. We must